Hi everybody, I'm back with another process video for Project Life. This spread is just documenting some moments throughout the month of March. There's nothing really special going on here, just some everyday photos from work, from home, from a time we went out for sushi, and some food photos. And for this spread, I'm mostly going to be using the April 2022 Studio Calico Documenter Kit, which is called Ups and Downs. But I'm also using a lot for my stash, including I recently purchased the Hip Kit embellishment kit. No, I think it was their Project Life kit from September 2021, which contains a lot of the collection from Pink Fresh Studio called The Best Days, which is kind of a fall themed collection. But it actually coordinated really well with the Studio Calico kit, so I was really happy to have a lot more supplies to pull from throughout here. So I've selected where my photos are all going to go, and now I'm just trimming them down, some of them, so that I can back them up on a background card. Sometimes I don't like to do this because it can feel like a waste of a card, but at the same time, I don't need more cards getting added to my stash, so I will use as many as I can per spread. Adds a lot of color, a lot of dimension, and it helps me use up everything I've got. And so I'm just kind of flipping through the cards, trying to decide what I want to go for as far as the color palette goes. I chose that kind of off-kilter pink stripe for a title card, but I do end up changing it to something else. And I'm just trimming down very carefully this photo of my husband at dinner when we were getting sushi. Trying not to cut his head off, but I do want the card to be a little bit smaller so that I can fit it on a background card. And so I go ahead and do that, and then I start to flip through my cards to try and decide what I want to use. And I really enjoyed the color palette of this kit. I really like the warm colors as well as the kind of more bold cobalt blue. I thought it was a really interesting color palette. I think that Studio Calico has a tendency to reuse its color palettes, which, makes sense, and they add a lot of new designs, and so it never feels repetitive. But this is one of the color palettes that they use that are a little more, I guess, quirky looking. It doesn't seem like it would be cohesive, but it ends up looking really pretty. And then I decided to swap out the title card for this Obed Marshall Buenos Dias piece of paper that has these kind of, not quite stripes, but these almost like trapezoid. No, probably not trapezoid. I don't remember the word, but it has this really interesting colorful pattern on it. And now I'm digging through the ephemera from both the Studio Calico for my stash and from the Hip Kit. And I decided to add a couple labels as usual, as well as that little rainbow up on that picture of the French toast. And I'm continuing to dig through to see what else I want to go ahead and add on there. And I decide to add that little bit on the platter of sushi that says a snippet of my day, as well as this chipboard circle that accidentally ripped off the sticky part of it, so I had to pull out my glue. And that just says eat, which, self-explanatory. He's eating sushi, and therefore that works great on there. And then I went ahead and glued that on and realized that the photo is not backed up on the card yet, and so I went ahead and adhered it down just so that I don't accidentally mess things up. And so I went ahead and added that photo on there, and I decided to add a couple little enamel dots on there as well, just so it's not just the one little chipboard element. And so I think these are the Pink Fresh Studio enamel dots, which I always love to add more enamel dots. I've been getting kind of low, not low in the real sense of the word, but I've been tired of the ones that I've had. So it's nice to have a little boost to the collection. And then I went ahead and adhered down the little word phrase on the picture of the sushi, and I don't end up adding anything else because it's quite a busy photo. But here I am considering several other word phrases, but I do not end up deciding on any of those. I end up just leaving the one phrase on there. And sushi is something that we don't get very often, and so I always try to take a picture when we have sushi because it's usually on a special occasion of some kind. And now I'm going to go ahead and back up this photo of Ethan laying on the couch with the cat sitting on top of him. She was acting very silly that day. My husband Ethan came home from work, and she immediately jumped up on him and sat there for a few minutes. And I thought it was really funny. So I added this red label to kind of be able to add some journaling, and then I thought I was going to add this blue piece of chipboard, but then I realized it was pointing at my husband's butt, and I didn't want to do that. So instead, I decided to look through all my ephemera. First, I considered all the Hip Kit kind of word phrases, but none of them really were applicable. They were all about back to school and fall, and this is March in Arizona, so not in any way resembling fall. And I decided instead to add this blue phrase from, I believe this is an Inky Quill Patreon printable phrase that says "Home Sweet Home," because the cats cuddling with us really is what represents home to me. My cats are always there, they're always there to cuddle, and they are part of my home, a very important part. And I decided to move on to this title card. I grabbed this chipboard from the set, and I'm considering adding some of these pink paisley words, but I decided that none of those really work for me. And I'm looking at this ephemera, none of that really looks like it's going to look well with the phrase, and I'm continuing to dig through. I consider that little like journal piece of ephemera, but I decided it's not really going the way I want it to. So I went ahead and adhered that down, and then I decided to grab some thickers out of my stash and to spell out "We're just" to create a longer phrase that says "We're just taking it day by day." And so I'm just pulling off each of those little letters and just sticking them on my finger for the time being. And luckily this is like a brand new set of thickers, so I had enough E's, I had enough T's. Sometimes it gets a little sketchy after you've made a few different titles. You start to run out of the more important, more common letters. And I'm just spelling them out on my ruler so that I can line them up and figure out where exactly I want to put them down. And I don't usually apply the stickers directly from the ruler onto the paper. I just use them more as a guide to kind of see how much space the title is going to take up and to have them in the right order. And so I add "We're just," and it looks a little busy, so I take a break from decorating this card just because I'm not sure what I want to do from there. But that's a good start. I do end up coming back and changing a bit of things. But I decided to take a break and then come back in a couple minutes. And so instead I move on to this selfie. It's a picture of me at work on one of the only days of the year that I was able to wear more than one layer, because normally it's quite hot at work, especially during the spring and the summer. And I felt good in my outfit, so I took a selfie. And then I went ahead and adhered down this little sticker that has a camera on it and added a couple of enamel dots, and then I call that good. And I start to add the cards into the little pockets. And I decided to work on this other card, well, one of the only cards left, which is this picture of some cinnamon swirl French toast, which was amazing. It's from a bakery down further south in the valley where my grandparents live. They go to this local bakery for their bread, and every time I go down there they have at least like an extra loaf, and I take it home. And this was amazing. If I lived closer, I would have the problem of going there all the time and buying this bread to make French toast because it was seriously delicious. Now I'm going to move back onto the title card, and I decide that I want to add kind of a base for the title just to separate it from the colorful background. And so I grabbed this blue piece of cardstock that's from the Create Paper Hooray collection, which is, a few years old at this point, but it worked just too well with this Studio Calico kit that I brought in quite a few elements from it. And sorry if you could hear my cat, she jumped off my desk just now. And I moved the title, moved the cardstock and the stickers onto this blue piece, and it ends up just grounding it and giving it a little more contrast, which I think was really needed on such a brilliant, colorful background. And I decide to dig through my stash and see if there's anything else I want to add, but first I'm going to grab one of my white gel pens and draw a little doodly border, not really doodly, like as straight as I can make it border around the three sides of this, just to kind of rein it in, kind of make it a little more solid looking. And my white pens, some of them have been having issues. I can never tell. I think I just keep grabbing the bad one because I have two in my drawer, and I have to go over them a couple of times sometimes just because it's not leaving a very consistent finish. But I called it good. It was just fine for now. And I decided to add one more phrase to kind of complete this title card. And so I added "together." So the phrase altogether says, "We're just taking it day by day together." Since this spread has a lot of just kind of daily life, making the small moments count kind of photos. And then I decided that I wanted to do some quick journaling on this picture of the cat. It just says "such a funny cat." And then I'm debating what I want to do to give more contrast to this tag card, this kind of journaly one. And I decide that maybe I want to use some blue ink. And this pen, which came from my Hobonichi, is not quite the right shade. And so I grabbed this other one, and I decide to give a dash border around the tag to kind of bring it out from the background a little and tie in the blue that's kind of continued throughout the spread. And so I do that. I have an issue with dotted borders where I either make the length of the dashes inconsistent or sometimes they tend to curve or wobble a little bit. But you know what? That's fine. I just, let it go. No one will really notice. No one really looks at my albums besides me anyways. So, maybe one day if I have kids, they'll look, but they won't really care if the doodly border is wonky. So I just call it good. It's all about the process. It's all about the creativity. And then I decided I want to add a couple more enamel dots, just because you can never have too many enamel dots. And I think that's the last card. And I debate whether I'm going to go ahead and add journaling, but I decided to just do it off camera because it takes a long time. And if I'm thinking about too many things at once, I tend to just kind of mess up and spell things wrong. But that goes ahead and completes the spread. And let me know if you have any other questions. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.